Hey everybody, Dom Nicastro, CMSWire managing editor with my pal, my colleague, Jen Torres, reporter for CMSWire. What's going on, Jen?
Hi, Dom. I'm great. How are you?
Good. We usually have just like one of our faces with like a source, like an expert in the world of customer experience and marketing, but now it's the two of us here, and we're going to talk about your favorite stories so far in your short tenure so far at CMS Wire. You've been here with us as a freelancer in the summer, and then we liked you so much we brought you on full time in September.
Yeah.
So 3 months in, and a lot of content out there, and you've picked your top five. But first, I want to give our listeners a little insight into you. Like, how did you arrive here? I mean, extensive writing career, great journalism background, book author. So give our viewers a little sense of where you came from.
Okay, sure. Well, I was a newspaper reporter for many years. I worked for Gannett, Florida Today. And I started off, it's kind of funny because I started off in sports and I didn't know anything about
Same.
sports. That was pretty interesting. So I stayed there for a bit and I did come to really enjoy it. But I moved around a lot. So I went to Metro and then I covered features and government. I sat in on council meetings and then eventually I found my way to business, the business department where I stayed and really enjoyed. I ended up getting a column there that I had for several
Mm.
years, a retail column. And so I enjoyed that a lot. I also am the author of about 12 books. I have a series of celebrity biographies for children,
Mm.
and I did a trilogy, a sci-fi trilogy for young adults. So I do enjoy creative writing on the side as well.
Nice. And was it interesting getting our starts in, community journalism and newspapers, because that was like such a grind, right? You had to feed that newspaper every day. And I would imagine like you had to live like in the community that you were writing about, so you saw these people in the grocery stores or at the local pubs or whatever, and it's like, oh, I wrote about this person. It's just going to be interesting to run into
Yeah,
them.
that definitely happens. I mean, I live in a relatively small beach town, but we're very close to Orlando and Miami, but you run into everybody here. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's, if I just wrote a story about you, there you are in line at the grocery store.
I hear
Hello.
you. I mean, Jen, my first full time newspaper gig was in my hometown. So you're talking my mother saying things
Right.
like, Dominic, why would you put that in the paper?
Oh, yeah.
Or my aunt coming in and said, you shouldn't put your a cousin in the police notes. I'm like, well, he did get arrested. So I
No,
don't know
well,
what to tell you there.
it's true. I mean, and my husband actually still works at the same newspaper. That's where we met.
Mm,
Funny enough, he's the editorial editor there now, and he writes a lot of strong pieces. So he definitely gets, taps on the shoulder when
yeah.
he's in line at the store
Wow.
of his opinions and such. But he has stayed on all this time. He really enjoys it. So
A family of journalists. Now, is it still print paper that he works with in addition to online?
yeah, well,
Yeah.
it is. It's much smaller than it used to be. I mean, when
Yeah.
I was there, it was just really a lot of departments, a lot of activity, a lot going on, and it's yeah, as with all newspapers now, they've had a lot of cutbacks and staff reductions. In fact, they just went through one recently. He was waiting by his phone.
Oh
One
man, yeah, it's
person was
tough.
getting a call right before Christmas about it, but it wasn't him. So they
Thankfully,
do
yeah.
still have a print publication, but they have gone online and try to get online subscriptions. That's kind of their main focus now, I would say.
Yeah. I remember we got into online world and newspapers for the first time, and I was so excited that we got to post PDFs on the internet,
Right.
like city
Yes.
council minutes or
Hmm.
something. Like, look at this, and we like shared it with the whole company. It's so cool. We put it in the news in the print, like go
Yes.
online and find the whole city council minutes meeting. So
Yeah, I think you and I were both there during a time of extreme change,
yeah,
going from old systems to the internet. I mean,
yeah,
it was a time of a lot of changes. It was
yeah.
exciting, different.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many changes now too, like, Chat GPT. You wrote about that open AI system where you can just ask it any questions and it gives you an immediate answer. And some of the answers are pretty solid. Some of them are not
Yeah.
so solid. And we've kind of rolled with the punches. I think at the core of everything, though, journalists are journalists, and you are one of the best. So we're so happy to have you, and like to have someone who is like a true journalist and still goes by those core tenets of just seeking the truth and providing information that's relevant. So awesome to have you. And speaking of that, you yourself have picked out your favorites so far in your young CMSWire career this year, your top 5 stories. So let's get into them, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, so your first one that you pointed out is RCX leaders' concern about quiet quitting. What was that all about?
Well, I just think it's something a lot of people can relate to. I mean, feeling detached from your job, not feeling appreciated, leads to, you not doing a good job in the long run, and that comes down to customers. I mean, if you're unhappy, you can't make anyone else happy. And I thought it was interesting that it actually had nothing to do really with quitting so much as it was just a behavior when someone reaches the point where they just don't want to do more than what's required. They don't want to go above and beyond. They'll do the minimum requirements. They're not doing anything to, get fired necessarily. They're meeting those minimum requirements. But as far as doing anything above that, they're just not doing it because they don't feel appreciated and they don't feel like they're growing, and maybe they don't even like their job.
Yeah.
So I found it just interesting.
Yeah, and you related it back to our core audience, CX leaders, and what they think about it. So well done. I find it as like such a passive aggressive workplace move. Like I'm just not going to try. Like I mean, that's kind of silly. I think you should just kind of pack it up if you don't feel appreciated or you want a better opportunity. But hey.
Well, I'm not even sure that the people involved knew what they were doing. they started getting labeled, maybe people started noticing, hey, really going above and beyond here anymore. What's happening? One person I talked to for this article, Stacy Sherman, she's someone I've used a lot when I do customer experience articles. She's the founder of Doing CX Right. And she actually says that recognizing humanity in business is critical to any business's success. And so, and that's kind of what she hones all of her work around, is making sure that there is humanity in the business for employees and for customers, that you don't forget and be authentic with them, so yeah.
Yeah. This next one about, human psychological needs that matter in customer experience. This got a lot of attention, a lot of views, a lot of engagement. And the key to that probably, was your video interview with social psychologist, Dr. Ron Friedman. It was a fascinating take on this side of CX that not a lot of people might talk about.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting too. And we kind of countered it with the increasing use of chatbots and AI tools, and kind of said, are people forgetting that a lot of times what people want is the human touch? But one thing that was really interesting about it is the difference. They did a study, actually. The article is kind of based on a study that he did. And they did it with a company called Front, and it was the science behind strong customer relationships. And one thing that they found was that baby boomers will only wait the time it takes to boil an egg to have someone come to the phone to talk to a human. So that's about 8 minutes. So they'll sit there and listen to music for about 8 minutes before they're like, that's it. Whereas Gen Z will wait 2 hours, over 2 hours for that same. So there's a difference there that's important for, I think, a lot of businesses to note, depending on who they market to. A big difference in what people expect as far as human interaction.
How come no one cares about Gen X? Right? I'm a proud member of we never survey Gen X people. Like,
I agree.
Right? There's no love Gen. Like they just care about what baby boomers think, millennials, and Gen Z. They skip over us every time. Like I think they just leave us there and said, yeah, they're just listening to Kurt Cobain, Nirvana, Pearl Jam. They don't care. They don't want to be bothered. They're not necessarily engaged. They just want to be left alone, work hard, and then go to sleep.
I think we're pretty cool. I don't know why that happens. I agree. It's always I never talk about Gen X.
Yeah. Well, speaking of being cool, your next article, one of your faves for CMSWire.com, is about being cool and having a cool influencer as part of your brand marketing game. And influencer marketing, took a little step back, if I could say so, because there was some government influence in terms of regulations and not following proper, ways to market your influencers and not being genuine that this is an influencer, that kind of thing. And you covered that so nicely, that comprehensive look on what it takes to have an influencer marketing program, things that you should know in terms of regulations, FCC, things like that. And you talked to a lot of influencers themselves, so it was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it because I didn't set out for this. It just happened to be the way it was that, I was contacting different people about their influencing game, and kind of in the context of like all the kind of horrible things that have happened lately. If an influencer speaks out or says something inappropriate that really doesn't bode well for the brands they represent, and of course, $1 million fines, so on and so forth. So, but what I found when I reached out is that the people I spoke to had, what they're doing is authentic influence marketing. I mean, they actually take people that use their products, that love their products, and they use them as influencers. And in the case of, we have one person I spoke to who they used some celebrities actually, but they're celebrities who really care about what the business is doing, which is dancing.
Yeah.
And they were allowed to make their own dance videos, and they really got into it and enjoyed it. So I think that was the message from this one is, instead of looking way out into the clouds for an influencer, look right into your own, consumer base and find those people who just love your product.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife is an esthetician, and she has so many people that she follows for makeup influencers. And it's not just this product relationship. Like, she gets behind the person. Like, she
Right.
says, this person is an advocate for mental health also, in addition to being and it's great. It's like such an emotional connection. So when it does work, it's fascinating. But brands, as you pointed out in the piece for CMSWire.com, they need to have a prepared game plan, knowing all the regulations and rules where they just don't go afoul and get in trouble, basically.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes having hashtag ad is not enough, and that's important to know.
Yep. There's many more rules and regulations there. So good stuff. Last two, one of them was catching up with a couple of entrepreneurs talking about the business impact of Web3. Web3 was really hot in the beginning of this year. I mean, it was almost like Chat GPT was in early December, right? Like Web3, what's going on? We got to do it. The internet's done. It's over. It's now Web3, and certainly hasn't even come close to materializing yet. But you did catch up with a couple people who gave you some thoughts on that.
Yeah, this one was special to me because it was actually the first one I wrote
Mm.
for CMSWire. So it holds a special place in my heart. And I got to meet two cool guys, and they spoke to, I just wanted to find out their take on Web3. Are they preparing for it? Are they excited about it? What do they think of it? And so on. And so I just kind of got their take and what they're doing to prepare. And for one of them, he's doing nothing because he absolutely doesn't want to be one of the leaders. He wants to wait until others kind of delve into it, and then he'll kind of make his decision and go. And the other person I spoke to, he's already starting to offer NFTs with purchases of his clothing that can be worn, you can wear it, and you can also have your avatar wear it in the metaverse. So
yeah.
So it's just an interesting take from two different people about their thoughts on that whole scene.
Yeah. It's going to be tough to crack those internet conglomerates and the Facebooks and the Googles and the Amazon. I mean, you just can't say that the whole web is going to become decentralized overnight, and the people are going to have control over this. I just don't see it, materializing anytime soon. I mean, Forrester research says 2030 before we start to see any sort of real actualization of this. So I'm kind of in that camp too, maybe even longer. So we'll have to wait and see. Certainly not going to happen next month. But hey, people are definitely diving in.
Well, that's good. They need to get better headsets. I
Yeah.
have one of those and it hurts.
There you go.
And you get a headache, I can't stay in there long.
Yeah. All right. So final piece that you are particularly proud of in your top 5 here was about e-commerce. So ongoing retailer challenges. There's a lot of challenges in that space.
Yeah, I picked that one because I just thought I was really inspired by the people that I spoke to. They just pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and they survived the retail apocalypse. I mean, one gentleman I spoke to has run a comic book shop for 30 years, and he really depended heavily on his customer base coming into the store. He wasn't all that tech savvy. He had a Facebook page and so on, but when the pandemic hit, he had to close shop for nearly a year, but he kept his business open and allowed people to come by and pick things up. And he used Facebook Live and had sales there. And he just discovered a way to create a network through social media and through videos that he would post that kept him running throughout the whole thing. And there's several examples of different companies like that who are successful now. They were successful as a brick and mortar, and now they're successful as a click and mortar. They just combine the best of both worlds. So that's that story. Yeah, I just really enjoyed talking to all the people and just learning from them how they did it.
Yeah. Well, it's great to get out there and hear and from all these folks through your reporting. It's fascinating, big and small. You're talking to large organizations, you're talking to small mom and pops, because customer experience is, at the end of the day, same challenges for the huge brands and the small brands to try to figure out how to connect with their customer base. So looking forward to more of that coverage, Jen, in 2023. And next month, our editorial calendar items would be, and our themes would be top CMO challenges and opportunities. And you have a nice series that's ongoing about, talking to CMOs and getting Q&As with them and talking about their challenges, successes. So that's exciting too, right? Talking to those marketing leaders.
Yeah, that's been exciting. We've already taped one and we've got more scheduled, and it's really interesting to see, what goes on in the mind of the CMO and what got them into the position in the first place, and how they run their teams and what's important to them, what their challenges are. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting series.
Good. The other theme is customer experience leadership, fixing the persistent silo problem. So we're looking forward to more coverage in that across the board with all our CMSWire contributors and writers. So Jen Torres, you're the interviewee this time versus the interviewer. How did it feel?
It felt pretty good with you.
It's good to be on that side. It's nice to be on that side. I think it's easier because you don't have to move the interview forward. You just have to respond. So
I'm gonna say I agree with that totally.
All right, Jen, thanks for everything. I hope you're, continuing to have a good break, because we're in the break at this point when the article publishes. Break from CMSWire.com, by the way. We're officially on break of, the week of December 19th and the week of December 26th. We're back at it first week of January. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Dom. Bye.
Bye now.